Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at meta-heuristics.
Yeah, these are those super interesting techniques for finding good solutions to complex problems, optimization problems.
Optimization problems. So we're talking about problems where there's like a ton of possible solutions.
Exactly. And you want to find the best one, or at least a really good one.
I've been looking over the research, and it seems like meta-heuristics are used in a surprising number of fields.
It really is remarkable. You see them applied in logistics and scheduling,
Data mining.
even adapting algorithms themselves.
It's almost like a universal problem-solving toolkit.
That's a great way to think about it.
So let's dive into some of the specifics here. One of the key concepts that keeps popping up in our sources is multi-level meta-heuristics.
Right, multi-level meta-heuristics. These are like strategies for selecting or generating, well, parts of a solution.
Parts of a solution. Okay, so not the whole solution at once, but pieces of it.
Exactly. It's like having a strategy for choosing the best strategy,
Hmm.
which can be a little mind-bending.
It is a bit meta, isn't it?
Definitely. Now, there are two main types of these multi-level meta-heuristics. Selection perturbative hyperheuristics and generation hyperheuristics.
Okay, let's break those down a bit. What are selection perturbative hyperheuristics?
So imagine you're fine-tuning a machine, like adjusting the settings on a 3D printer to get the best print quality.
Okay, got it.
A selection perturbative hyperheuristic is like a smart control system that explores different settings and figures out which ones give you the best result.
So instead of just randomly fiddling with the knobs, it has a method for finding the best combination.
Exactly. It's all about making smart choices among existing options.
I see. And these selection perturbative hyperheuristics often rely on algorithms, like evolutionary algorithms, right?
Precisely. They mimic natural selection to find the best solutions.
Fascinating. So then what about the generation hyperheuristics? How are those different?
Well, selection perturbative hyperheuristics pick from existing options, right? But generation hyperheuristics, they can actually create new components for the solution from scratch.
Wow. So it's like they're inventing entirely new solutions. That's pretty incredible.
It is. Now let's look at some real-world examples of how these multi-level meta-heuristics are actually being used.
Yeah, let's get to the practical applications.
One study combined data mining techniques with a meta-heuristic called GRASP. That stands for Greedy Randomized Adaptive Search Procedure.
RASP, okay. And what problem were they trying to solve with this GRASP approach?
They were working on the one commodity pickup and delivery traveling salesman problem. Basically, it's like figuring out the most efficient routes for a bunch of delivery trucks.
Ah, so a classic logistics challenge.
Right. You want to minimize the time and cost it takes to pick up and deliver all those packages. And what they found was really interesting. The data mining enhanced GRASP approach performed way better than just the standard GRASP.
So it was significantly more efficient.
Significantly. It found better solutions, and it found them much faster. They actually have a visualization in the study showing how much faster it converged.
That's really cool.
It is. And this just goes to show how these meta-heuristics can really boost efficiency in solving complex problems. But we have so many more cool examples to get to.
Yeah, this is just the beginning of our exploration.
Okay, so have you heard of evolution strategies? Sometimes they're just called ES.
Evolution strategies, yeah, I've come across those in the research. They're the ones that can kind of like adapt on the fly, right?
Exactly. They have this remarkable ability to, well, it's almost like they learn and evolve as they're working on a problem.
It's like they're not just finding a solution, they're becoming better problem solvers in the process.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. And a key part of this adaptation is something called mutation.
Okay, so we're getting into the genetic algorithm side of things.
It is related to that, yeah. So imagine you have a solution, and mutation introduces these small random changes to it, almost like an explorer taking a slightly different path to see if it leads to a better outcome.
So it's like trying out little variations to see if they improve things.
Right. And what's really cool about ES is that they can actually control how much they mutate based on the problem they're facing. So if the problem is really complex and the best solution keeps changing, they might mutate more often.
Oh, that's interesting. So they can adapt their strategy based on the difficulty of the terrain, so to speak.
Exactly. It's like adjusting your step size depending on whether you're walking on a smooth path or navigating a rocky hillside.
I like that analogy. It makes it much easier to visualize.
Glad to hear it. Now, speaking of different approaches, our sources also talk about some really interesting work being done in workforce scheduling.
Workforce scheduling. Oh,
Yeah.
I know. That can be a nightmare.
Absolutely. Trying to coordinate everyone's skills, availability, deadlines, locations, it can get incredibly complex.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that firsthand. So how do meta-heuristics come into play here?
Well, one technique they highlight is something called local search.
Local search. What's that all about?
It's actually a pretty simple idea, but it can be surprisingly effective. Basically, you start with an initial solution, and then you explore nearby solutions by making these small changes step by step.
Okay, so it's like you're making incremental improvements.
Yeah, you could think of it like that. You keep making these little adjustments, always trying to move toward a better solution until you can't find any more
You're
improvements.
kind of like constantly tweaking and refining the solution until you hit a wall.
Yeah, exactly. Now, local search might not always find the absolute best solution, the global optimum, but it's really good at finding good solutions quickly, especially for problems where you just can't explore all the possible options.
Right, because sometimes speed and practicality are more important than finding the absolute perfect solution.
Exactly. And it's amazing how many different approaches there are to this. Like our sources also talk about this fascinating technique called ant colony optimization.
And colony optimization, or ACO. Now, that one always sounds so cool to me. Like, how do you even apply ant behavior to solving complex problems?
Right. It seems counterintuitive. But think about how ants search for food.
Mm,
They wander around and they leave these pheromone trails behind them.
okay, yeah, I remember learning about that in biology class.
And the shorter and more efficient the path to the food source, the more ants will travel along it. So the pheromone trail gets stronger, and that attracts even more ants.
So it's like a positive feedback loop where the best paths become more and more obvious over time.
Exactly. And ACO algorithms, they actually mimic this behavior. They create these artificial ants that explore the solution space. And as they move around, they leave behind these virtual pheromone
So
trails.
the trails leading to good solutions get stronger and stronger.
Exactly. And this helps guide the search toward those really good solutions.
It's like they're creating a map of the solution space based on collective intelligence.
Yeah, a really cool way to put it. We've got these algorithms that adapt like explorers, we've got ones that rearrange things like puzzle pieces, and now we've got algorithms that follow ant trails. It's amazing.
The variety of these meta-heuristic approaches is incredible.
It really is. And we're not even done yet. The sources go even deeper, talking about things like hybridization, where you combine different approaches.
Hybridization, interesting. So you're kind of like creating these hybrid algorithms that take the best parts of different methods.
Exactly. It's like assembling a team of specialists, each with their own unique skills.
I like that. Combining strengths to tackle complex challenges. Now, what are some of the advantages of this hybridization?
Well, it can lead to much more robust solutions, and it can improve efficiency. So, for example, you might combine a global search method, which is good at exploring a wide range of
Okay.
possibilities, with a local search method, which is great at fine-tuning the best solutions.
Ah, so you're getting the best of both worlds.
Exactly. And there are so many different ways to hybridize these algorithms. Sometimes you can even incorporate, problem-specific knowledge.
Oh, so you're like giving the algorithm some expert guidance?
Right, like giving it a head start.
Okay, so do our sources give us any specific examples of how this hybridization plays out in practice?
Yeah, they do. One interesting example is combining meta-heuristics with more traditional optimization techniques like mathematical programming.
Mathematical programming. That's the one with all the equations and constraints.
Yeah, exactly. And mathematical programming can be incredibly powerful, but sometimes it runs into trouble when you're dealing with real-world problems. They can be messy and complex and full of
Right,
uncertainties.
because the real world doesn't always fit neatly into those equations.
Exactly. And that's where meta-heuristics can step in. They can actually use the information from the mathematical model to help guide their search. But they can also go beyond those strict equations and explore different possibilities.
So it's like having those precise mathematical calculations,
Mm.
but also having that flexibility and adaptability of the meta-heuristic approach.
Yeah, you got it. And this kind of combination has been used successfully in a lot of different areas, optimizing logistics, scheduling, even designing complex engineering systems.
Wow. This is really eye-opening. It seems like meta-heuristics aren't just about, finding the one right answer. They're about creating these adaptable systems that can deal with complexity and uncertainty.
You hit the nail on the head, and we're just scratching the surface here. We still need to talk about genetic algorithms and parallel computation, which take things to a whole other level.
Well, I'm definitely ready to keep exploring. This is fascinating stuff.
All right, are you ready to talk about genetic algorithms?
Genetic algorithms, or GAs, yeah. I always find those so interesting. It's like survival of the fittest, but for algorithms.
Exactly. They're inspired by, evolution, natural selection, all that good stuff.
So how do you go from, like, Darwinian evolution to actually solving problems with computers?
Well, think of it this way. You have a population of potential solutions. Each one is like a chromosome and it has these genes that represent different parts of the solution.
Okay, so it's like a blueprint for solving the problem.
Yeah.
And you have a whole bunch of these blueprints competing with each other.
Right. And we simulate evolution. Solutions that perform better, they have higher fitness, they're more likely to reproduce and pass on their genes to the next generation.
So the better solutions get to create offspring, and hopefully those offspring are even better.
Exactly. And we use things like crossover, where we combine parts of different solutions, kind of like mixing genetic traits.
Makes sense. And then there's mutation, right, where you introduce some random changes to keep things fresh.
You got it. Mutation helps maintain diversity in the population so we don't get stuck in a rut and we keep exploring new possibilities. And, this whole process, it ties into this really important concept in optimization, balancing exploration with exploitation.
Right, because you need to explore new possibilities, but you also need to exploit the good solutions you've already found. So how do GAs handle that balance?
There are a bunch of different techniques. One thing you can do is introduce new individuals into the population every once in a while.
So it's like bringing in fresh blood, new ideas to shake things up.
Exactly. You can also adjust the selection pressure, making sure that even solutions that aren't the absolute best still have a chance to contribute.
So you don't accidentally discard a solution that might have some hidden potential.
Right. And then there's another game changer we need to talk about: parallel computation.
Parallel computation. Oh yeah, I've heard that's becoming a big deal in all sorts of fields.
It is, and it's really transforming the world of meta-heuristics. Basically, it's about using multiple processors to work on a problem at the same time.
So instead of one computer crunching away at the problem, you have a whole team of them working together.
Right. It's like dividing a huge puzzle into smaller pieces and having a bunch of people work on those pieces simultaneously.
That makes sense. So you can explore a much larger space of possible solutions and potentially find better solutions faster.
Exactly. And there are different ways to do this. You might run multiple searches independently, or you might have the solvers communicate and cooperate with each other.
Oh, that's interesting. So they can share information and learn from each other's progress.
Yeah, it's like a team of really smart problem solvers, each with their own strengths, working together to crack the code. And that's what's so fascinating about meta-heuristics. It's not just about brute force calculation. It's about creating these elegant systems that can learn and adapt and solve problems in a way that almost seems intelligent.
It is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. We've covered a lot of ground today, from those multi-level meta-heuristics to evolution strategies and colony optimization, genetic algorithms, and now parallel computation.
And we've seen how these techniques are being applied to so many real-world
Wow.
problems. Logistics, scheduling, even improving the algorithms themselves.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway for me is that meta-heuristics are really about, embracing flexibility, exploring new possibilities, and harnessing the power of, like, collective intelligence.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So next time you're facing a tough problem, remember the lessons of meta-heuristics. Think outside the box, try different approaches, and don't be afraid to experiment.
That's great advice. And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.